Well,
and
like
building horsepower.
you're not you're not eliminating anything. You're just adding on volume. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you saw those workouts, I sent you, I am deleting legs from my workouts for a little while. Um, um, Not really for any other reason that I don't want my workouts to go from 2 hour workouts to 3 hour workouts.
Bro, my just arm wrestling recovery workout takes me like an hour just to do the big three movements, and
Yeah,
and then I do all the hand and wrist stuff. And just me alone, if I just keep moving, it still takes me an hour just to do mine. And I don't even do the hand and wrist stuff with my left hand. I just do right
yeah.
hand.
I'm not training the right at all, dude. I retired it. I went ahead and told Kevin. I said, make Rich and Niles the match for 220. I said my right arm is just not gonna do it. It's not gonna, dude. Like in all reality, I loved the match and I thought it could be a good match, but really it could only be a good match for like one round. And then my right's toast, and he's gonna put me straight to the pin pad. Like I would have to be 20% stronger to win that match. Like right-handed, if I'm gonna beat somebody in a war like that, I just have to have way more than they do. Which is why I can pull tournaments with it just fine. But I get into one war and that's it.
She smoked.
Yeah, it hurts. And it's not like an arm wrestling
What was
hurt.
the deal with that? What was that? That was an MMA injury, correct?
Yeah, that was in my last boxing fight. I dislocated it like 3 times and had surgery. The MRI just showed a torn labrum. And then the surgery went from being an hour and a half, an hour and a half labrum repair surgery to a 3 hour labrum repair, ligament repair, and extracting 20 fragments of sheared bone. So like it was pretty serious.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks because before that happened, I had a decent little match with Joel Hudick. I mean, I got beat 3-0, but I stopped him. I was in that match for what it's worth.
At the Hard Rock on
Yeah.
the river. Yeah, you were. He helped. You were able to hold him. It was
Yeah, but
just
I didn't have anything to go
slow.
through his side pressure.
It's just one of those ones where it just goes.
Yeah. Yeah, there was just nothing I could do there. I felt good. I tried to play mind games because I knew I couldn't pull through him.
I don't
Because,
remember.
like, dude, it's one thing to stop Joel, but it's another thing to pin him because he has such good endurance. I mean, he had a war with Eli Broward last year at Nationals, and Eli had him an inch from the pin pad for like 40 seconds, dude. And he was just holding. And he was in a horrible position, just holding. And it's like, that's why Joel is, he was one of those WAL guys that was really good. He was on super match cards in the WAL, and that's why. And I understand why he kind of lost his fire there too, because he just, there's nothing big like that to excite him. I think BAL excited him a lot, and then once that faded, it was like, dude, I get it. I would be crushed if I was on like the WAL platform for a few years and I was killing it, and they're paying for this, paying for that. You're all you have to worry about is being an athlete, and then all of a sudden it just fades, and it's back to pulling tournaments if you want to arm wrestle.
Yeah, I'm
Like
curious.
that would
To
kill
go
me.
nationals.
What is it?
I'm curious if it'll be at nationals this weekend because that was the last time you pulled. Was
Yeah, I wonder, man. It's one of those things where if he doesn't pull in nationals, he's got to get pulled off those rankings. You can
I
only
mean,
be number one in
our
Ohio if you're active for, I think you need to
our
pull at
Ohio
least what, once a year?
dude, our Ohio rankings are not formal right now. All I've been doing is just trying to keep up with the movements as far as the tournaments that we have in our state. And I mean, some of the events don't even get put into Aries, and nobody knows what happens. So it's like,
Yeah.
until Greg and them continue with the OPAR rankings. I mean, that was when it was like an official rankings. There was a committee and everything. Um, what I'm doing now, just filling in. You know,
Did I tell you that I
I'm
busted
not.
into the
I'm not
top
gonna.
five in
Let's just
North America?
not gonna take Joel off of the rankings
I
because
mean, if you
everybody,
don't, if you're inactive, then you're inactive, though.
yeah, even off the couch, Joel is gonna smack everybody.
Yeah, that was one of the OPAR rankings. So I think he had to compete at least once a year, which I think that's every ranking system.
I think so.
Um,
If that's the case, we'd probably take off 3/4 of the pullers on that list.
that's the problem, dude. I think a big problem with state ranking systems is people care so damn much about them that they don't show up and poll.
Oh, I had a talk with somebody about um, just combining weight classes, you know, like just combining the ranks between 154 and 176, just plopping them together. 98 and 220s, just plop them together.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like,
Dude, honestly, I think the Ohio State ranking system just needs to be deleted. Personally, I think all it does is make people only want to pull up. People don't want to take matches pulling down. Now, I get it. If somebody is deserving of the match, they should get the match. However, like, kind of where I'm at personally, the way I feel, and the way somebody else at 198 should feel, or the way somebody at 242 should feel, because realistically, Todd Hutchings is, I think, should be number one at 242. Paul Talbot should be number one at 198. I'm number one at 220. If you want to get a match like that, though, you have to earn that. Like, the number two 198 in Ohio is not just going to call out Paul Talbot and he just is obligated to pull him because he's number two and Paul's number one. Like it.
let's just clarify here. The the people, i.e., Toddzilla, Talbot, you know, possibly even Kevin at 54. These guys are, you're getting to that point now, you know, there gets to a point to where you're so good of a puller that you're beyond a state ranking.
Yeah, I mean, I've got two pullers in front of me at 220 right now in the North American rankings. I got Brent Rakers and Andre Shark. Those are the two in front of me. I'm ranked at number six, but it's not updated enough. They have Scott Bollinger. Well, I'd put Daniel Worley in there too. But you got Scott Bollinger. They still have ranked at 220. He's a 198 guy. Um, Doug at 220, his left is injured. So, like, do I think that I can beat Doug? No, I don't. I would never even pull Doug left-handed. Like, that's, my mentor, if you will. Like, he's taught me everything. He's kind of where I'm at. He's the reason why I'm at where I'm at.
I'm not talking
But
national ranks. I'm not talking about the arm fighter lists. I'm talking about just
that's in
Ohio.
the hook.
Yeah, in the hook, whatever. I'm not even talking about those. I'm just talking about Ohio. It gets to a point to where if you're getting calls to go onto pay-per-view cards and getting these high-level matches, you're beyond the Ohio State rankings list. You know what I mean? Like, there's no point in Todd Hutchings being on that list in Ohio.
Well, I mean, if you want
You
to
know,
look at who's number one in Ohio at each weight class, I mean, that's the guy. You know,
the last time
from
he pulled in Ohio in an event was probably 12 years ago.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I mean, he's
Oh, well,
still.
you just said it did matter because if you didn't pull within a year, it for Ohio State ranks,
But
it's
he pulls
Ohio
every year.
in Ohio pulling.
No, I'm just saying actively pulling in
Oh,
general, like just being an active puller.
right,
Um, I mean, because like for me, like man, like I don't know. For me, I'm not gonna, and I'm not trying to, you know, be degrading when I say this or anything, but like I'm not gonna go to a tournament and pull and cut weight and pull my weight class at a local tournament. Like I'm just gonna go pull supers or something to have fun,
right.
get some training out of it. And I think those guys have done the same thing. Like Todd Hutchins has went to Gus's bar and just pulled supers and just for fun. within the last 5 years. But yeah, I mean, like if you want to make an Ohio State ranking system where people can compete with one another, then I understand where you're coming from. But if you want to know who the guy is in Ohio at each weight,
I think we all know.
but that's pretty evident anyhow. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm not worried about it.
yeah,
Everybody.
I just think people get too like they get too zoned in on this state ranking system, and it throws off who pulls, who shows up to tournaments. It throws off, like there's guys that won't show up to a tournament and pull a class because they think a guy below them who's close to them might show up and take their ranking. I hate that. Like, dude, at the end of
Yeah,
the
I'm
day,
not
like,
going to disagree that that has happened or probably has happened,
oh, I
recently.
guarantee it, man. I guarantee it.
I'm sure. All right, well, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome everybody to the Winning Side podcast. I am your host Billy Collins, alongside my co-host Mr. Cody Smith.
That's me. It is
The Winning
the
Side.
Winning Side
Yeah,
podcast. I
yeah.
like that.
I actually forgot to put the on our backgrounds. You know
It's
that?
all right. I can envision it being
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I gotta fix that. But as always, we want to thank our podcast sponsor, Grip Arm Sport. Uh, thank thank you, Adam, for everything you do for the sport and the community. So make sure everybody you go to griparmsport.com and get some merch.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So congratulations on your win, buddy.
I appreciate it, man. That was it was a dog fight, and I kind of knew it was gonna end up being one. I figured Brandon is he's a veteran in this sport. He's been pulling 15 plus years. He's been pulling at a high level for a long time, at an elite level for a long time. So I knew that wasn't gonna be something I could just, go in there, put him straight to the pad 3 times, or, you know, get quick and easy wins on him. Before leading up to that match, me and Doug talked a lot about how I was going to pull styles, certain adjustments I may have to make. And he told me, like the match is going to stop. Like it's going to turn into a war if you've got the power. And he said, he believed that I did have the power. And he said, you guys are right there power wise. He said, the match is going to stop. It's going to turn into a war. It's going to be a dogfight. It's just going to come down to who wants it more, who gets in a better spot. And the endurance factor was huge. It's kind of
Yeah.
something that I'm super happy I took that next step and kind of started practicing every week with all the guys, with all the West Ohio arm fighters, all the guys that have shown up, whether you showed up to the first one or the most recent one. I got to thank, everybody that I got to pull with, because that helped out tremendously. I think that was the difference between a 3-1 win and, the match going the other way. So it was great.
We definitely want to hit up the chat. Lucky Ones podcast. Lucky, what up? She's here. Colby Eaker's in the house. The Big Hop says hi. Colby said, congrats, Cody.
Thank
What
you.
a match. Wow. He said, you're a beast.
Yeah, man, it was hard fought for sure. I appreciate that.
Tracy Hare's here. What's up, Tracy? Adam Finley. He said, what's up, y'all? Cody, congrats on the win.
Appreciate it, man.
Kasumi 1245. Hey, what's up? The Drew 24, our moderator. Thanks for being here, buddy. Thanks for being here, Drew. He put the Grip Arm Sport website in the chat, and then I went ahead and pinned it so you guys can find it easily. It's right at the pinned on the live chat there. So if you guys want to go to griparmsport.com and support those who support arm wrestling. Oh, let's see here. Tracy, he said, do you feel that the mag table was better for a flop press than a traditional 7x7 pad table?
I feel like the Mac table was just overall more efficient, in my opinion. I think the pin pads being slightly higher, the elbow pads being not staggered straight across from each other, but having more space, I don't feel like that benefits either a top roller or a hooker, and I feel like it's safer. I feel like you're going to see less torn biceps down by the pin pad. You're going to see a lot less kings moving going on. Um, I think the way the table legs are angled out, gives it more structural integrity. You don't feel, and I know that you felt this before. You throw your leg up on the table, and it doesn't matter what table it is, you feel play in it. Like you feel it shift a little bit, whether it's bolted down or not. Like these things have four legs and a little bottom, a little cross to them, whatever, and a tabletop. And every time I've ever thrown, I don't care if it's a Mazarenko table, anytime I've ever thrown my leg up on a table, I felt a little bit of play in it. Not that the thing's gonna fold in half on me, but I mean, I think like just the tops to these tables are like 100 pounds, if that says anything.
Man, Jamie Sheldon tables are crazy heavy too.
Yeah, man, and I like that. Like
Those
there's a
things are
ton of
super
power on
heavy
that
duty.
table.
Those things are so super heavy duty and nice padded and everything. Man, they're just
Yeah, man, I think it's a problem to have a 30-pound table when you got two dudes on there,
oh
potentially
yeah,
two super heavyweights.
right.
You
Yeah,
know, something's gonna give someday.
yeah. Those practice tables, that you get off Amazon are not
No,
not viable
those
for
aren't holding it.
300 pounders. Maybe for a practice when they're pulling easy, but if you get two 300 pounders on one of those Amazon tables, something
Oh, posting their legs on it, man, you're gonna have that thing rip in half.
that
Like,
yeah. And we've had the bases of those crack and break just from us 198-pound guys at our practice. So
yep.
you can only imagine what one of those would do at a Mac event or something like that.
Oh man, yeah. I have no complaints about the Mac. I think the Mac promotion, and it was a smaller promotion. It wasn't a Mac numbered event, but it being still under Mac rules. JJ Jackson was there running everything. He did a great job. The table, the rule set, they were very they were very helpful with that. If they sent everybody that had a super match that day. A PDF file, or I think it was just an online file of the rule set for the Mac League, which is huge.
Right.
And then on top of that, when you got to the tournament, to refresh your memory, there was hard copies right there. So
Yep.
everybody could go up, grab a piece of paper, read through the entire, set of rules. That way, when you get up to the table, there's nothing to argue about. If you don't know a rule, well, you had every opportunity. The ball was in your court the whole
Mm.
time.
That's
And
a good idea. Maybe at my next tournament, I'll just do like a quick rundown of the tournament rules. Just one piece of paper, just a list, and then just put a couple copies at every single table.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, man. And like, and I still, because I've never pulled under a rule set where you get three fouls. Um, so I still mentally, when I, did I don't know, you call it the professional foul, whatever. When I took a foul on purpose to restart the match, mentally, I was sitting there thinking, like, okay, dude, that's it. You ain't got any more of those. I had three fouls the whole time.
Right.
The problem is when you're zoned into a match, and you're focused on you can only focus on so many things. Um, and that was something that I don't potentially I don't really like doing the whole professional foul deal, but sometimes you got to do it. And
A win. I mean,
you know,
sometimes you gotta win.
yeah, you have to. So it wasn't it wasn't too bad there.
We
It
see
was nice in them that I had an extra one.
the trust me, the pros and elite pullers do it also. So don't.
Oh, big time, man. Big
Yeah.
time. Sometimes they don't even get called for it. See, for me, like, you better call that professional foul really quick because I'm putting myself in a horrible spot and I will get pinned. Like, I'm hoping the ref calls that before I get pinned because if not, like, that's it, man. I
Mm,
put myself in such a susceptible spot because if I do get pinned, I can be like, no, dude, I fouled first. Hopefully the down ref saw it.
yeah.
But regardless, I hate to have to do that. But at the end of the day, man, that's how it works. That's arm wrestling. So,
Yep. Colby,
um,
he posted in the chat. He said he's putting his Amazon table together right now, and his goal is to break it. Bring it to
There you go.
we'll put some wear on it.
Start doing table
Horrible.
lifts on it. Just
Yeah,
drop the weight on it every time. I'm kidding. Don't do that. And don't do
horrible
table
to
lifts.
mention,
I don't think those are beneficial.
by the way. Yeah,
I think
those.
table lifts get you hurt.
Oh yeah.
They
You know
just
what? The one thing that I noticed about the Mac tables that necessarily that me personally I would not enjoy was there is nowhere to put my feet. Just because I'm used to, uh, I can't remember what kind of even table we got. Steve built them from Indiana. What do we got? Victory tables? No, I can't remember.
legacy.
Legacy tables, yeah. And then you got the crossbar in the center. You know, sits up
Yeah.
yay much. You know, so we're so used to having our leg on the side there with it up. You know what I mean? So your hip is at
Okay.
a certain height. You know, with it. Excuse me, with your foot resting on that side of the base. And I noticed that Max setup didn't have any of that.
See,
Yeah.
and I personally, I think that's a good thing that they had it set like that.
Hey, Brandon,
Um,
what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I'm late.
how we doing? No, you're good, man. You're
I'm,
good.
I'm doing
Thanks
great.
for joining us.
Yeah, just home with the family. I was playing with my son and stuff. I completely forgot what time it was. I
I
looked,
figured. I sent you the text. I was like, he'll see it. He'll see
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I looked. I was like, shit. What time? What time is it? I was like, fuck. Yeah.
We were talking about the Mac tables and the bases. Like when I went to Michigan State a couple years ago, and they don't use a there's no base to the table itself. You know what I mean? So it's like your table, your legs go right into the platform itself.
Right.
So I was constantly trying to get my hip higher, you know what I mean, up closer to the top of the table. And then I was just tippy toeing the whole time because I wasn't used to not having that inch and a half or whatever it is, 2 inches to put my foot on to keep my hip high.
Did you have the base or no?
No, what I'm talking about is we use legacy tables for our events, and we have the platform, and then we bolt the base of the legacy table to the platform, and then you have the posts that go into the base of the table.
Hmm.
For the Mac and like what the tables that they use at Michigan State, it's just the legs go directly to the platform. There's no secondary up, where your feet can go.
Right.
So
Yeah,
me
you don't have
personally,
those crossbars on the bottom there.
going the whole time trying to get my hip height, just because that's just what we're used to. That's all. But I'm sure everybody will start pulling and get used to whatever table that they're using. So everybody adjusts accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I got on the table when I first got there. I put my elbow on it. I wanted to see how it felt. I wanted to see how the peg felt. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's just, and I know they have cut corners, which is great. They have the rounded edges, so I don't have a ton of bruising on my right bicep here, which is great. I think that's awesome.
Um,
But correct me
what
if I'm wrong. I
question?
want to say the pegs are a little closer together.
That's what I was going to ask you. From the videos that I've seen, in my eyes, it looked like the pegs, tip to tip from the hand pegs, was farther away from each other than what I would have normally seen on these other tables that we use. But I
I
don't,
think the reason for that is
I
because
don't have.
I think it's throwing your eyes off with the taper.
Yeah,
The way it tapers.
it probably is. But I'd just be curious on what the actual measurement from peg to peg was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never thought of that. I've never noticed it, and I haven't heard anybody ever say that about that.
And
So
and the only reason why I say that is it causes your peg hand to be outside farther, right? So you're kind
If
of
it's further out.
you're out like this a little bit more than in like this.
I noticed when I hipped up to the table, typically when I hip up to the table, my arm's a little more more straightened out. And I noticed that it wasn't on that table. Could have been the cut corners. Could be that the pegs are slightly closer. Could be a mixture of both. Who knows? But I think it was the pegs have some knurling on them too, I believe.
Oh, that's nice. I like
I
that.
think they do have some knurling on them.
What do you mean by your arm being straightened out?
Like when I hipped up, my arm had a little more slack in it than usual if I hip up to the table and get behind my hand.
He's talking about his peg hand.
I wasn't as
Okay.
extended.
Peg hand.
Yeah, I got you.
Let's go ahead and do this. Let's welcome Mr. Brandon Elsesser to the show. Everybody in the chat, go ahead and say hi to Brandon. We want to thank him so much for being on the show tonight. Brandon, what a war you and Cody had, man. You guys did a great job putting on a show for the people up there, and we definitely want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Thanks and welcome.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? And yeah, thank you for having me on the show. And yeah, that was a pretty crazy war. I'm not surprised. I seem to be getting a lot of wars lately, but that one was different.
That one hurt. That was probably the most painful match I ever had doing it. Weirdly, oddly enough, and this could have been because I didn't do any after pulls. Oddly enough, I wasn't as crazy sore as I thought I was going to be. I thought I was going to wake up the next day and not be able to lift my arm up. Like, I honestly thought it was going to be the worst pain I've ever felt because I was like, dude, that was bad. Like,
especially
that was a bad spot.
Especially positions you were in. Like, I think you were in a worse spot than I am. You tested your frame more than I did. I had you in
horrible, man. Horrible position.
Now I got a question for Brandon. Brandon, how sore is your pronator?
My pronator isn't sore at all. It's like the side. It's always the side of my arm after a really tough match is probably like the most sore. Like if I go to do like push-ups or forget that.
Because it just seemed like you're just this the whole time. You're just trying to crank and crank and crank the whole time. I was like, man, that's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, that wasn't too sore. It's mostly like the side of the arm and the bicep a little bit. Not really.
Yeah, the brachialis. I think that's kind of the pain I was missing because I didn't do a ton of outside pulling. So I'm so used to, regardless of how the match goes, I'm so used to my brachialis being just crazy inflamed. Mm-hmm. But really it was my hand, my wrist, my hand was just gone. Like my hand when I woke up the next day, I was like, yep, that's not there. My wrist was really sore, and then all down my forearm here was pretty sore. Inner elbow didn't feel too bad though. I was surprised. I thought that was going to be really bad.
But yeah, I thought that your elbow would have been all flared up.
I think had I had been cupped in, I think it would have been. I think I would have been putting a lot more pressure there.
Yeah.
But I think since my hand was extended, I think I was taking a lot of pressure on my wrist, my hand, wrist, and forearm, more or less.
Yep.
But yeah, during the match, I mean, the last, I think, the last 2 or 3 ready goes, I thought to myself, I was like, dude, there's no way I can't even close my hand right now. Like, you know, Tim Lewis is in my corner. He's asking me, he's like, hey, dude, he's like, how you feeling? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't close my hand. So the whole going outside again, that's not happening. I was like, I'm just going to have to shoot in and press. Like, my hand's gone. That was a
super match. Like, every time, like, every round, you're like, okay, I'm fucking blown up right now. But your opponent's just as blown up as you are, typically.
Right.
So it comes down to, like, are you thinking about how blown up you are? Or are you thinking of, okay, we're both on the same, we have the same amount of lactic acid built up right now. It's, you know, like some people get in their own head and think they're tired and they just like give up mentally. And obviously you didn't, but like some people make that mistake when really the other guy's just as tired as they are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, man. I think that's one of the biggest things is like, and we talked about that a good bit after the match too, is like because we were both center of the table there, and it felt like, and we were driving so hard sideways, but it felt like we weren't driving very much towards the end. And then when things turned inside and I tried to surge, I was like, dude, I didn't even feel like I did anything. Like I didn't feel like I moved. And I was like, what happened? Like, where's it at? Like,
Hey, I
Yeah.
got a question here.
Like,
Brandon, Tracy Hare asks, Brandon, is there anything that you think you could have done for a different outcome? And if not, what do you think your downfall in that match was, i.e., riser cup pronation?
none of those. I can tell you that much. None
yeah.
of those were his downfall at all.
I don't.
He told me to do wrist curls leading up to the match, and I did, but not enough. Not nearly not enough.
What do you think,
That
Brandon?
was
I don't think it was my hand that was my weakness. I think my rise and my cup and pronation were all strong enough to win the match. But there's more variables to arm wrestling than just the hand. Sometimes, most of the times, it's good enough, especially against amateurs. You can pretty much win any amateur tournament you go to by just having a strong hand. But when you
Yeah,
start the higher, like the high level pro classes, like national level pro classes, just having a strong hand isn't going to it it's not going to get you very far. Most often, you might not even finish top three from just having a strong hand alone. You got to
right.
have a package, and my hand certainly felt strong enough to me, but I think where I was lacking is uh, kind of shoulder connection, like to be able to stay behind my shoulder, because Cody was driving sideways with the flat press, and it had me outside of my shoulder, so I'm kind of hanging on in a open top roll position, and I didn't have the side the just the shoulder connection. If so, yeah, it's hard to explain, but like I feel like it's a shoulder thing is where I needed to strengthen up a little bit. Match.
Let, let me ask you this. If you think you, before the go, after okay, well, I'm going to have, my thought process is if you knew you were going to go here, right? Do you think it would have been a little different if um, if you would have stood up a little bit taller, hip hip to the left, and just kind of bullied a little bit more with that left shoulder, met him inside a little bit, and then apply the pressure towards that hand?
It could have made a difference, and maybe it would have been, maybe it wouldn't have. I don't really know.
Brandon generates a shitload of posts. Like I don't think anybody actually understands how much posting pressure and power he has. And if you watched any of Brandon's matches left-handed, because I watched like when you pulled Jordan Sill, um, when you had wars with Doug, I watched like when you post really high, you get really high, and you're able to, like when you do sink down a little bit, that pressure is at the top of my hand the entire time, which literally shuts down any outside move I could possibly have. And I think that's from, it's just the way that you kind of get yourself under the table, and you kind of, and honestly, the way you train too. I see the way you train, you shoot everything up in the air. And I started doing that because I saw you doing it. So I started like on my cable, like if I'm doing pronation or anything, I started just shooting up with it. Because on the table, that's how you're doing that too. And so really, I guess if you're trying to say coming back here and staying a little taller, I think I don't think it would have ended in the same spot because it's not naturally how you pull to begin with. It
Right.
would have been a foreign thing.
Right.
Um, yeah, the amount of post, that was the amount of pressure on the back of my hand and on my wrist from the strap because of how strong your post was ridiculous. Like I've got like literal cuts and bruises on my hand from the strap. Like that's the first time I've ever had that. So, you know.
We do have some others that were saying hi, Brandon. Tracy Hare, he said, "What's up, Brandon?" Kasumi said, "Hey, what's up, Brandon?" Hunter Ayers, "What up, Hunter?" He said, "What's up, guys?" 6 Mile Mary, "Hi, Mary, how are you?" That's a friend from Detroit. Uh, Tracy said, "Gotcha. Thank you for your answer, Brandon."
Yep. No problem.
But yeah, it was definitely a war. You know, everybody always loves watching those matches that stop. You know what I mean? Nobody loves watching, you know, those 2 second matches where people get 3-0'd.
I knew it was gonna stop, man. The entire time, because I know Doug and Brandon have had some wars, and Doug being one of my main training partners, he told me, he was like, I don't care how strong you are. Like, I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how perfect your positioning is. He said, you know, like the match is gonna stop. Like it's gonna turn into a dog fight. So that entire, you know, camp that I had leading up to this match was just to train and condition so much. I mean, dude, I went to the Arnold. I ended up not pulling the Arnold to focus on this match. And I went to the Arnold. I gripped up with people until like my arm was pretty sore. And then I walked around the Arnold, and then I came back like an hour later and started pulling again. Like I pulled probably 3 or 4 times every other hour that day at the Arnold, and then practiced the next day at a practice. I mean, I did so much conditioning because I knew that that it was going to be tested. It was not going to be an easy thing by any means, you know. And if you watch any of Brandon's matches, like he doesn't go to the pin pad off go. It just doesn't happen. So it's like mentally to prepare for that match, you know, it's not like, okay, I need to get just crazy strong for this match. It's like I need to dig deep and find something that I didn't have before, and figure out how to do that. Because if not, it was going to be a really bad day. And after that first match, when I tried to go outside with you, and you ended up having just way more rise and way more post, my hands sloped down a little bit, and I tried to hit sideways. I was like, oh god, dude. I was like, nope. I was like, there it is. I was like, that's the match. I was like, he's got just way too much for me, because you know, and I kind of had that same result with Daniel Worley, in terms of just the hand and wrist and his back pressure just being crazy. And you know, it's pulling him and then pulling you, because you guys have been in my last 2 matches. Um, you know, everything that I've been doing for my hand and wrist and pronation and supination and rise, everything I've been doing, I need to do that like way more and at a way higher intensity, because it's like at
Oh,
this level, dude. I mean, it's crazy. That was a huge eye opener.
Oh,
Like,
as easy it is as it is to train wrist and forearms, I swear they're like the last thing to strengthen in arm wrestling, because it's all everybody trains. So like everybody knows you got wrist is 90% of the match, so everybody's always training it. So it takes a long time to catch up to everybody, especially when you haven't been in the sport as long.
mm-hmm.
and you're a wizard.
Brandon,
You know, you're really good in the straps too, and that's where I lack a lot of experiences in the straps, and that's just because I haven't pulled very many high level pullers in the straps.
Mhm.
So you know, it comes down to a huge experience thing. So that's why when we started out of the straps the first round, and we slipped and immediately went to him, I was like, all right, dude, this is do or die right now. Like you better figure something out here.
Yeah,
And
I wanted to start in the straps. I don't even like pulling without the straps anymore. I without the straps. That's how I
yeah,
always train. Like the first match in practice, we'll pull without the straps, and then it's straps the rest of the day, pretty much. I don't
yeah,
train without straps very often, and I just feel like the straps is where all the power is, and it's yeah.
it's high level arm wrestling, man. I mean, that's where it ends up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Even 2 hookers getting into a war, you're gonna see him go to the strap at some point. Like it's gonna happen.
yeah, more
Um,
often than not. Yeah,
yeah, because I mean, you get so much more out of it, and I know you do. I'm just not as good in them, so I try to not go there if I can. But I think that's another thing that tournaments do. Like, if you want to get good at super matches, you pull super matches. You know, if you want to get, you know, be a good tournament puller, you stay pulling tournaments. You know, I feel like you can't uh, go pull a bunch of tournaments and then go pull a bunch of super matches and perform at the same level. You know, it's not gonna work. Um, Problem with tournaments is I don't want to slip every match. I don't want, like, I want to win quick, efficiently, on to the next.
Right.
So you get to the point where you love the strap so much, and then you want to slip every match. It's like, dude, that's a lot of ready goes. I mean, I think we even had a lot of ready goes out of a best of five. What, like 9 or 10 ready goes?
Was there? I wasn't counting.
Oh, dude, I was like after the match because I was like, dude, that was so much. Like, and it's great because I need like I love like and I'm super grateful that you took gave me the opportunity to pull you too because that's something that I got a ton of ready goes in with Dan. I got a ton of ready goes in with you, and I feel like the only way to progress is to get those ready goes with high level athletes. Um, just consistently, and that's kind of where where my focus is.
Absolutely. It's always been kind of my mindset as well. If you want to be able to compete with the very best, you have to pull as many of the very best guys as you possibly can in a actual like tournament or super match setting. And yeah, if nobody's accepting a match for you, that's kind of. I mean, I think you got to accept matches also to get.
Right,
You know what I mean? If nobody ever accepted a match, there would be no arm wrestling matches. So,
right,
but yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
you coming down, man, like that's awesome. My hometown, I didn't have to go very far. I got to pull. I knew you were a high level puller. I didn't know exactly how good, but all right.
That leads me into this next comment from Tracy Hare. He goes, Brandon, you have pulled many top high ranking pullers. In your opinion, is there anyone that comes to mind you would think that would be a solid match for Cody next on his left hand?
I think there's several guys left-handed. I would say one for sure is the last opponent that I had in Mac would be Jamie Staken. They both felt very similar in terms of like side pressure and just how sturdy their arms are. I think it would be a great match. And I can't say who would win. And there's plenty of other guys.
Well, you guys had an all-out war. Like I watched
Yeah.
that back several times. So like watching that match, it was so hard for me to judge anything because I watched you go inside, I watched you go outside. I'm like, dude, he's strong everywhere. So like when people were asking me what my game plan was to pull you, I was like, I don't know. I was like, he's and that's why you're at the high level because you are strong everywhere. So I was like, I'm gonna have to just my game plan was just stay high, try to hit sideways, and then if that doesn't work, I got to figure something out. You do like you guys did a lot of that in that match with Jamie. That was a fun match to watch, and he seems like just a powerhouse himself as well.
Oh yeah,
I
dude.
mean,
Yeah, he's very powerful for sure. He taught me how to arm wrestle left-handed because before pulling him, I didn't know if I was a hook puller or a top roller left-handed. To be honest, like I can hook and top roll left-handed all the time, and I just always like I'm not sure which one's better for like I'll go months thinking I'm better at top rolling, and then I'll go months thinking I'm just gonna fucking hook everybody I go against, and so I go against him and I try hooking him, and he fucking beats me. And I try top rolling him, and he beats me again. And then the next time we meet up, I was top rolling, and I figured out the lane, and that's why I was very confident coming in my match against you because I was like, I already know how to pull left-handed now.
you guys went back and forth at that tough event, right? Like it was like 2-2.
Yeah, we went 2-2. He won the first two matches, and then I won the next two, and it was just fine. The first match I tried hooking, and then the second match I top rolled, and he beat me in a war, and then I adjusted my angle a little bit better. And yeah, it's not always about just going sideways. Like against him, and even against you, I kind of have to kind of hit back to my own side a little bit and just focus on gaining height and pronation. It's all just hand control. There's no going for the pin, no sideways movement until I get what I need, and that's what I figured out basically with my matches against Jamie, and I used it against you, and you're just strong as fuck. So
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I see, and that's me and Doug had a lot of talk about this after my match with Worley because I was hitting for the pin every single round because that works against everybody who's not at that level. You can hit for the pin 9 times out of 10. In a tournament setting, I was a tournament puller for sure before then. In a tournament setting, you're always hitting for the pin. Unless you're pulling somebody who's very solid. But after that match, I noticed that I was like, all right, I didn't stay very composed. I got into a spot that I thought was decent, and then I just Hail Married and went sideways because like I didn't know where my strength level was, so I didn't want to hit for position and then just get tore up. I was like, I'm just gonna bite down on my mouthpiece here and slam sideways in a decent spot and see if I can even hang with these guys to begin with, because that's a huge, I'm a typically a very explosive and fast puller. The problem is, where's your confidence at being very fast and explosive against somebody that might just be way stronger than you? Like, I might hit into a wall and just get destroyed. So, which is a good thing because I think that makes you hit for position in the long run.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's I just the experience that is needed to pull at this level is, you can't even talk about it. Like, you've been pulling at such a high level for such a long time, and that's what does it is just continuously pulling, animals. Because if you just go to a local tournament once a month and kill everybody, like
You're
locally,
not
you're the
learning.
man. But yeah, you're not gonna, I learned so much from that match with Worley. I learned so much from that match with you. I learned so much from, um, I can't even think. I had a war with arson at Arizona State. Learned a ton from that. I'm just kidding. I love the fact that every single time I pull and get into a war, like, yeah, it sucks, it hurts, it's not, ideal, but I just love the fact that I can take so much away from that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why driving 7 hours to come pull you, and being in your first of all, that was to be expected anyways. You were I could not have expected you to drive to me by any means. But that's what it just made it so much more worth it, because I got to learn so much. And every time I pull you higher level guys, I get to pick your guys' brain a little bit. I get to take a little bit. And that's the great thing about arm wrestling is, I would say a lot of us aren't assholes in that sense. Like, if somebody has a legitimate question, we're gonna give them a genuine answer. And like I said before, tons of respect for you. And I still remember, man, like my first 6 months into the sport, and this was before I even started training with Doug. You came to a Toledo event, and I think you pulled Dave Shane a super match. And I was on the undercard of the undercard for that match. Like, I had a super match with some dude from Michigan, and I was 6 months in, and I remember watching you guys go at it, and I was like, fuck. I was like, it's gonna take like 10 years to get even close to those guys. Like, I'm watching you guys, like, I'm watching all the crazy shit. Had no idea what was going on.
I was gonna
And
even know you were there. Like I didn't even
that's what I'm saying. like,
know who you
like,
were.
man, like, I remember just watching all that, and it really, that's what made me so fascinated with the sport, was watching the higher level arm wrestling, because there's so much more going on, and even just from watching it, you learn so much.
Right.
Like,
Like Giannis and Mendagas at East versus West is a great.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Like it's like Paul Lynn made a post. It's like watching Da Vinci and Picasso or something like that. Like they're like two artists at the table. Like the way they pull, it's everything's
just the
so
biggest chess match in the world.
yeah.
And to actually be able to read the match. You know what I mean? You could be in the sport for 5 years and still not understand exactly what's happening.
Oh, dude,
You
20,
know, watching.
25, 30. You could be pulling in your 60s, started at 15, have no idea what's going on. Like, all you see through your lens is two guys that are really good. Like,
Man, I
Oh,
love that match.
I'm still
yeah,
That match was just amazing. I
yeah.
saw every little intricate move that they were trying to do, even in the setup, and the ref kept calling him out. He's like, "What? I ain't doing nothing."
I gotta go back and watch that again so I can write some shit down in my notes on my book on my phone. That's
Yeah,
how that's how I taught myself how to arm wrestle. Every time I learned something, I put it in my notes on my cell phone so I can look at it because I can't remember. I can't keep that stuff stored in my brain for the.
no, you got to write it down. You got to analyze.
Yeah, I
Dude,
got
every time I've ever taken an ass whooping, I have been the biggest, like, to myself, I've been the
Homework.
biggest crybaby about it. I will sit back and look at that match, and I will rewatch myself getting my ass whipped 1,000 times. I'll be like, I did that wrong, I did that wrong, I did that wrong, and then I take it all with me to practice, and I'm like, I'm still doing it wrong in practice. I need to figure that out. But
Yep.
yeah, I think that's huge. And like you're saying, writing it down is huge. If anybody's newer to the sport, if you want to learn something, you want to get good at something, I think a seventh grade PE teacher told me that one time. Like, if there's something that you really want to learn, you're thinking about it at the time, write it down immediately because you'll forget it. Like you'll like over your lifetime, you forget so much of
Oh, dude.
and it's crazy. And it's actually interesting because I've never heard like another arm wrestler say that like he actually writes these things down to focus on it that much.
Yep. Yep. Because I'm forgetful. I forget things, so I got to write it down on my phone, and
Yeah.
because I look at it before I go to practices or competitions just to make sure it's fresh on my mind. So because I don't want to be thinking during a match like what am I supposed to do now? Because I don't like I'll forget how to arm wrestle if I don't look at my notes sometimes.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely, man. Something came to me during that match. So last year at Arizona State, I pulled Mario Tambakis, and he flop pressed me to the pad, but he like supinated in a little bit when he flop pressed. So after the match, like I was watching that back, and I was like, "Yeah, that's the weirdest shit I've ever felt in my life." I was like, what just happened?" So I went up to him, I was talking to him about it, and he was like, yeah, he said, I kind of carve in just a little bit. He said, I flop straight, I shove my palm into yours. He said, if you're in the strap, you kind of want to focus on driving down into the strap as you're supinating. He said, that's going to make your opponent kind of overpronate a little bit because they're going to feel that pressure there. And like in the middle of the match, I was like, what that Australian dude, like, what did he tell me to do? I was like sitting there trying to think because like I like that's not something I ever like want to have to sit there and practice. Like that's a painful thing. But it all comes back to that. Like if I would have wrote that down that day and then used that in the future and just practiced it a little bit, get familiar with it. That's huge.
yeah. Brandon, did you learn anything from the match versus Cody? And did the match with Cody alter any of your training going forward?
I think what I learned as I need to focus more when I'm pulling guys like Cody. I need to focus on keeping my shoulder behind my arm when I'm pulling because I might I might gain hand control and then I'll go sideways and I'll open up my shoulder a little bit, and I think I really need to focus on that. I need to get my elbow in deep and just maintain that center of the table. And
Can you do that, Brandon? Can you touch your elbows?
yeah, sort of.
Kinda.
I
I
can
was just
touch my,
curious
my forearms.
if your chest is getting in the way of your pec deck.
No, I can touch my forearms together. I
Okay.
think as much. That's about as all.
So
I
you have the flexibility to be able to do it. It's just
yeah.
remembering to do it. Write that down in your notes.
And my right is better than my left is because you see me press all the time with my right and on like previous matches and stuff, and I never do it with my left. Once in a while, but I think it's just I don't know, like my I don't know how to explain it, but it's just more natural for my right to do that than
Well,
my.
I saw that crazy, like that super crazy kind of press and then transition to the outside move that you pulled on Dimitri a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
And you shot in super quick, like, and it was, kind of like you just kind of smacked a hammer in and then rotated out right away. And it was so fast that you pulled him outside of his shoulder right off the rip. And
The top roll wasn't working against him, so I tried. I went inside, and I'm I'm not the best hook puller, but I'm pretty good and I'm pretty fast at it. But I was able to supinate super fast, and then from there I switched to kind of a drag, I guess, a outside hook move.
you kind of felt something there when you shot in, like you felt like you were able to shut down his hand just enough to where you could, kind of get into that, lat dragging style hook or
I guess just at the time, like that was just kind of how I hooked. Really, it's like
Just felt good.
I was
I
just
mean,
I try to get into a hook, and then I actually like hook from there. So I
yeah.
pressed and then like drag hooked. I guess I don't know because people just
And I think hooks always feel better that way too when you're so shoulder committed, like because you have your frame behind you when you're like that. Versus people, when they try to just cup in and start a hook that way without being, as shoulder committed.
Yeah.
I just think it's unnatural to try to drag somebody's arm like that.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think trying to hook somebody with it like this, like you're just putting everything right on your bicep. Like, why would you even do that? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon can do that. He's got 24-inch biceps. Nobody's pulling
But
through
what
that.
I'm saying is like even the new guys, anybody new guys watching,
Yeah.
if you're gonna attempt to hook it all, keep your shoulder behind your arm, keep your shoulder forward, and stay tight. You know, try not to hook out
Yeah.
here and get used to being outside of your shoulder on your bicep. It's
I
definitely
mean,
not.
man, my chest and my front delt and my tricep all are super engaged whenever I try to set a hook.
Yeah,
Because I'm slicing down as I'm shooting across to set that hook, and that's if you can ever bring more larger muscle groups into the movement, it's going to be stronger. Versus like you're saying, I mean, somebody just trying to cup in and set a hook and drag with their lat. Um,
Mhm.
Tracy said it's because people aren't willing to put their frame on the line. Yeah.
yeah,
But the thing is you're putting your arm on the line a lot of the times, and your bicep tendons and stuff. When you're not frame committed, right? You know,
Mhm.
stand that okay. Well, maybe you don't want to feel that pain in that inner elbow the next day, sure, but I tell you what, being out here outside of your shoulder is way more dangerous than
that inner elbow pain will
down.
go away. It'll go away. I can say this much: it'll go away, and it'll leave your mind a lot quicker than a damn loss. That's for sure. Like and that's why I put my frame on the line so much in some of these matches. I mean, I did it like against Tyler Irwin when we had that match. I just slammed inside and went into a hook and got behind it because I was like, I don't know what else to do. He
Yeah,
he set a hook on me initially in the second round, so I was like, I don't know. We're just gonna go for it.
go with it.
And
Yeah, I wish I was that young still.
Uh, Brandon,
What's that?
how old are you, Brandon?
I'm 34.
34. Okay, so you're not you're definitely not that old yet. You definitely got some years of going up for sure.
I'm already going through my first stem cell therapy, so that's of old age right there.
Right.
I'll tell you that much. That's why I used
Brandon,
to.
I wanted to ask you if you are allowed to say, what your plans are going forward. You got anything coming up?
Um, well, I'm waiting for my right arm to heal up. Like I said, I'm going through stem cell therapy right now. I have one more injection on April 30th, and then hopefully by uh, end of May, June, I will be ready to start competing again. I really wanted to go to nationals in May in South Carolina and qualify for Worlds, but unfortunately, I don't think the timing is right yet. I think it's going to be too soon for my right because my UCL ligament in my elbow was barely hanging on by a thread, is what I got from the MRI. So it was pretty serious, and so it's taken some time. But I haven't done any side pressure in like 2 months. I'm just letting it rest and letting it heal as much. I'm doing everything the right way. I still train back pressure and pronation and rise and wrist curls and all that stuff. I just don't do any side pressure stuff. So I think as soon as it is fully healed, my right will be just as strong. I'll just have to work my side pressure a little. Well, I don't know. I might not. I don't want to hurt it again. But
Right. Right.
until then, I've just been competing left-handed, and I've been having a lot of fun because I don't. I mean, my right's my favorite arm, and so I don't worry as much in my left if I win or lose. I kind of have fun, and in some ways I feel like that's an advantage too because
Mhm.
you're not getting in your nerves and and just getting all nervous and psyched up and forgetting how to arm wrestle and stuff like that. And my left's very good also. Um, but as far as plans, at the moment, I don't have anything on the agenda. I had a couple MAC competitions recently, and yeah, I'm waiting to see what's next, I guess.
For the viewers at home, maybe you could refresh their memories on how your right got injured.
I think it's from uh, wear and tear over time for the most part. I couldn't tell you when the first time I did some sort of damage to my elbow was. I feel like there was definitely several times, but there was two matches where I got injured in that stand out the most to me. And um and believe it or not, it wasn't the Craig Toulier match because that was the craziest war I've ever had in my life. But my elbow
Yeah,
was fine during, before, and after that
that
match.
was nuts.
Yeah. um
I've never seen anybody press somebody from there. Like,
yeah,
holy moly!
Man, it
I,
looked like it was that John Therian match in the last round.
yeah. I'll take you back a little bit further. So the last East versus West event that I was in Turkey,
Mhm.
I faced Stoyan Golomanov, and in the very first round, well, he false started or something in the first one, or elbow fouled. I got to stop, and then he elbow fouled, and then we went again, and he hit very hard and fast, and jerked me over a little bit, and I was hanging on, and I felt two pops in my elbow, and this
Oof.
was one of the match, and like I was blown up for the rest of the entire match there, and then never went and got it looked at or anything. Kept training and pulling. It was feeling good again, and I had a super match against Alan Ford, which I won. I had no issues with my elbow, and
Yeah,
then
it was a very dominant win too. You looked like you could have, done anything you wanted in that match. You
yeah,
looked,
I felt
very solid in that match.
I felt great for sure. And then I had the match against John Therien, and the same thing that happened against Stoyan Golemnov at East versus West happened against John Therien in the last round. It popped twice, just like the first time, and then yeah, I got it. I went and got it checked this time because I knew something that isn't right. Because it gets tender when I train and in ways that it shouldn't be, and it heeds my training, which I don't like. So I went and
Right.
got an eye and went to go get stem cell therapy. So I think there was probably other times where I had minor tears to it also, but the two major ones to me was East versus West and against John Therian at MAC 3.
Yeah.
Well, see, and as you were in a really hard position there too because you were, competing at the tippy, at the tip top level, and you feel a tweak. So it's like, mentally, like you think, like, it's a hard decision to make to sit there and go, okay, I need to step back and let this heal. Versus, no, dude, I'm just gonna keep my foot on the pedal and keep driving down the road. Like, and I get it. I mean, that definitely sounds like that would have been a hard decision. I can't say that I would have done any different than you did. I probably would have just kept going because, you were at that, that spot. So you probably had just, tons of emotions flowing. You're going crazy, you're killing people, and then a little tweak happens. And
Yeah, man, it's tough when you get that far with something that you're so passionate about and hungry to achieve, and then all of a sudden something like that happens. It's like wow, I what do you do? Like you want to keep the momentum going, you want to
Yep.
keep, but at the same time, what's going to help you in the long run? And it takes just as much discipline to not train as it does to train your ass.
probably more because, I mean, that's your life. Like, that's your lifestyle at this
Yeah,
point. I
yeah.
mean, if you like take a couple days off training, you probably feel like a different person.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure. I like don't know what to do with myself if I times, you know what I mean? So that's the hardest part, but luckily I can still train my a bunch of other stuff. I just don't do any side pressure, and I can still train my left arm, which I honestly I still train my right arm more than I do my left.
So let me point on this real quick for the new people. You don't put your arm on the line in training. You don't put your arm on the line at local tournaments. You don't put your arm on the line at state tournaments. But that thought process when you're at East versus West and you feel that is that when you have to make that decision. Okay, is this where I put my arm on the line? You know, and I'm sure that thought come through your head at that time.
So like after round one, when I felt the pops in my elbow,
Yeah.
I mean I guess I've at the time I didn't really I don't know what was going through my head. Honestly, I
probably
was
didn't think too much of it. I
yeah
mean, like
yeah
it felt weird, but
yeah
I
what can
mean,
you
what I'm
do?
saying is if you're at East versus West and that happens, all right, the decision making that is going to happen is a whole lot different than whenever you're at Joe's Bar and
yeah
Crab Shack
yeah
in BFE, wherever. Uh, the decision to continue is
yeah
not
yeah.
it.
And you're exactly right. If that happened at a practice or like a small local tournament, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna pull out now. I'm done. But I guess at East versus West, that thought didn't even cross my mind. Like I didn't even realize it. In my mind, I was a soldier in war, and it was fighting to the death. I basically, I guess, and
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know what was going through my head at the time. It was probably stupid to continue, but I don't know.
Well, at that point, that's the tip top of the spear. In arm wrestling, that's the highest level that anybody can get to is at East versus West. So it is, where do you go from there? If you're not willing to put your arm on the line at the tippy top, what are you willing to do? The
Right?
decisions, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably would have continued with it too,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. There's a balance with everything too. Like you want to do as much as you possibly can without doing too much. If that
Yeah,
makes,
yeah,
yeah.
I've
Because I
definitely
mean, and you go into that not knowing, like you have no idea what's gonna happen 5 seconds later. Like, so when when you decide, like when you feel something, like I don't know about you, but like for me, and like I had a boxing match in 2022 where I dislocated my shoulder like 3 times. So the first thing that goes through my head when it dislocated, I had my coach pop it back in. The first thing that went through my head was this could be my last fight. So it was like, all right, I'm going out on my fucking shield. Like that's it. I'm gonna fucking fight until I either win or I get knocked out. I don't care. I'm not gonna, I'm like I didn't train as hard as I trained to fold in other words, and kind of the same mindset when I went into that match with you. I have never trained as hard physically until the training camp leading up to the match with you. I had never been as mentally prepared and focused. You know, I had never had my sleep, my nutrition, my hydration, my training, my practicing, my awareness, like everything that I needed you know, to focus on and train, I did, and it was like super hard because I had never done everything right. It's always been like train really hard but eat horrible, or eat really good but subpar training, whatever. Because it's really hard to eat super healthy and also have super effective training days, and then mentally, being prepared for that. Because Brandon, like leading up to the match with you, I heard a ton of people, telling me like, "Oh, dude, you're getting killed, you're getting smoked." Like so many, just negative. I didn't want to hear those kind of comments, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what you're thinking. Like when I'm doing an AMRAP on any lift, or when I'm doing a set, or I feel horrible, I'm sitting in my truck after work one day, I don't want to go to the gym, and then those thoughts just play over in your head. Like,
Dude,
you weren't supposed to win this match anyways. It's like, no, dude, like that's not how I'm showing up. Like, and everything just fell into place. So when we got into that match, and my initial plan, like I said, was just high side pressure. I knew my side pressure was good. I wanted to keep my hand high, and I wanted to fight you outside. I wanted to have that be the match. And then once I felt that that wasn't going to happen, it was, I kind of had to make that same, decision where it was like, all right, do I just keep fighting this and hopefully I could be competitive, or do I get behind my hand, put my frame on the line, and just, and that's where I was like, no, dude, like you didn't train this hard, prepare this hard, go through the pain and suffering and training, um, et cetera, et cetera. You didn't do all of that to mentally fold. And to me, it would have been like mentally folding to sit there and just like think to myself, like, oh well, you could get hurt. Like, no, that's not even like, not even thinking about it. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
So
so
you're willing to put the arm on the line.
yeah, yeah, because and that's, and you have to dig deep for that. Like that was, when I was sitting at the center of the table, when I tried to drive sideways and Brandon's arm didn't move, and then he surges, my hand moves a little bit. You're like, I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, what is, like, what's going on right now? I don't know. Like I've never been in that kind of war before. Um,
I
Certainly never at a high level. So it's like I knew that you weren't just gonna fold. So I was like, I gotta fight for everything I can get here, because I know he's not just gonna quit.
watched that match so many times already. Like, just every round is exciting to watch. Like the first one where we go and we're fighting for hand control, and then you try
Yeah.
to merge sideways, and I shut you down, and then I get hand control and win. And then the next match you get me out of position, and I hang on, trying waiting for you to make a mistake so I can come back, and you come up top and press me down. And then the third match I get hand control again, and it's just a freaking war in the
It's like a
center.
1 minute match, wasn't it? Like a minute 5 seconds or something.
What's that?
That third round, I believe, was like a minute and 5 seconds of just center of the table, back and forth, like just continuous side pressure from both sides.
Yeah.
Like
That
I think, I'm pretty sure I was, circulation in my hand was gone. Like, that match was crazy.
Yeah, that one was the endurance round. That was where we were trying to testing each other's endurance in that one.
Well,
So
because people were telling you, like, people in the audience are like, bleed him out, bleed him out. And I'm like, man, is he going to bleed me? Am I going to bleed him? Like, who's getting
right.
bled right now? Like, I had no idea, because it was at center of the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was,
Whoever frame is not connected is getting bled.
what is it?
Whoever's frame is not connected is getting bled.
Yeah, his frame was definitely more connected than mine was.
Man, I think you surged like 10 or 12 times into my hand. And I remember watching each time, and I was like, dude, one of these is going to go. I was like, I hope he stops.
I should
Because
have just
every
gone with
time,
that.
man, because every time you surge, it shocks your arm, it gets you a little bit out of position. And I was like, please stop surging. Like, I stopped doing that. Like,
Yeah, I should have kept doing that, I guess. But I'm usually confident in my endurance and holding in positions like that. So I guess mentally, I was like, I can hold him off, or subconsciously, I was thinking that. But maybe if I try it again, I would just keep surging and see what happens. But
you would have been me.
never,
I'm being completely serious. There was no way that, unless I was able to kind of capitalize on one of your surges, like if you would have gotten lazy with a surge, and I would have been able to get inside a little more and into a better spot, maybe that could have changed things. But the surges are horrible to sit there and try to hold. I mean,
yeah,
that's just a rough day. Like,
It's
and he
amazing.
started doing it again in the last match, and yeah, it was just, that was rough. That was a lot of
It is
there was a lot
amazing
of power at the center of the
to
table that
see.
day.
It's amazing to see when the match stops in the center of the table, and you can watch both opponents, everything going through their mind. It is an amazing thing to watch. the little intricate movements and the back and forth. I love seeing it. You know, I can see the decision making as it happens, and you can see the reaction from the other side. And then you see a little bit of offense here, defense, a defensive offensive move.
All
You know,
kinds.
it's amazing to see
Yeah.
and watch. You know, those types of matches are so beautiful. That's why I'm in this sport, because of the beauty of it.
It's a
Yeah,
huge
I ran
chess match, man. It's
Huge,
awesome.
I ran
huge.
out of options during that match. It got to the point where it was like I don't know what to do now. I'll just keep doing the same thing, I guess. But I didn't want to hook him because I just felt like he was too strong there. I could have tried that, but I think it probably would have been over quickly if I did.
We
But
already shoulder commitment.
it's like, what do I do? Do I like I can't get behind my shoulder enough to press him down and stuff. So it's like all I had was just hang on and hope he tires out before I do. And he almost did in that last round, and then he elbow fouled and then he ended up getting me. But it was so close, man. Like it could have went to another round.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's one of those matches that if we pulled every other Saturday, you're going to see a different outcome. I don't think it's ever going to be consistently because those matches were so close that one small fraction of, of anything being different with the hand, the wrist, the connection, the ready go, the setup,
Yeah,
anything. The way the strap was, like if the strap would have been a little bit higher on my hand, I kept trying to get that pulled down because I kept having so much pressure up here, like towards my knuckles, and I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't close my hand. And I was like, no, we got to get that down a little bit. Like if any of those little things would have been off, like that changes the match, like 100%.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
it literally came down to your professional foul on that last round. I think you beat
Yeah,
me. I think you beat me because you did the professional foul, and I didn't even think about it. I should have done it on the next setup and got another restart. But
man, I felt pretty decent within my hand in that, but you had more post than I wanted you to have for sure because I was still reaching for your arm.
mm,
Versus, and then in the last round after I did that, I was like, all right, I was like, his hand might be a little more fried. I haven't been using mine a ton. I'm gonna try to go outside, try to hit outside. You took it again. I was like, all right, well,
yeah,
this is do or die. We're just gonna be in this spot. Like,
yeah, yeah. You just got
and
a strong connection there, man. Like, yeah, that's all I got to say. I didn't
it
have
was
any answer
rough.
for it.
Just a heads up for everybody in the chat, we're going to be shutting her down here pretty soon. So get your comments and or questions in the chat if you guys want to ask Brandon or Cody any questions. Um, but yeah, that was an amazing match to watch. I tell you what, I'd like personally. I know you guys just had a war. I'd like to see a rematch. In the future. Maybe 6 months or whatever down the road or whatever.
This weekend,
I'm
Yeah, right.
we're gonna pull every weekend for the next 3 months, and we're gonna tally up
I,
what goes on.
I think Cody's more sore than I am. I think we can do this weekend.
And I'm not pulling this weekend. Actually, I'm I've got something going on that day. Whichever day you're thinking,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not happening. But yeah, absolutely. That was a super fun match, man. And I said that in my post, and people might think differently. Like, how was that a fun match when it was a dog fight and you got into these war? That's why I love this sport. Like,
Well, it's not
I
fun
come
at the
from a
time. It's fun after, whenever you give your opponent a big hug and thank them for, the awesome match. That's when it is fun.
Well, man, I come from a combat sports background, where like if you go into a fight and you win in the first round, that wasn't a fun fight. If you go into an arm wrestling super match and you just flash a dude 3-0, like, yeah, you won, you got the dub, but it's like, where do you stand? You have no idea where you stand. So, like, in going into this match, I honestly had no idea where I stood. I knew that I was, top 10, but I was like, okay, am I closer or am I further away from, being top at 220 in North America? And because Brandon's there. I mean, like, you've got Andre Shark, Brent Rakers, and Doug Allen, and then you've got and I'm not saying in any particular order here, but like those are your top lefties in North America. So it was like everybody else, like there's such a gap there. So it was like, okay, like am I going to go into this match and get destroyed? Am I going to go in this match and have a war? I knew I wasn't going to go in there and just kill him. Like I knew that wasn't happening. So it was the most fun match I've ever had because I had to, mentally be so prepared for that match. And during that match, I was mentally tested the entire time. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at my hand at the center of the table, like trying to tell it to do things it wasn't doing. Like I'm sitting there like, dude, just a little bit. Like just give me a little bit.
It's that easy. Just do this.
Yeah, just curl in a little
It's
bit
not
here.
that.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
So much easier.
Don't you just have to do this?
Yeah.
That's how you win. I don't know why I didn't just try that to
You
begin
just
with.
do this, Cody. Oh my
I
goodness.
kept doing this. I don't know what it was, but
I'm just not used to taking somebody's hand and not being able to pin them. Like I'm usually strong enough. If I take somebody's hand, I'm a strong guy. I can pin them. Like you got some kind of different power. I'll say
Do
that.
you guys think that on the Mac table, your body manipulation is easier to make fluid versus a standard arm wrestling table?
I don't know. They feel so similar to me. Like when I get on the first time I got on the Mac table and competed, I like forgot I was arm wrestling on a Mac table almost. Like when I'm up there, it just feels the same.
you adapted pretty
Cody,
quick.
maybe Cody has a different opinion.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of adapted pretty quick to it too. I went up there, I got on it, I felt like I wanted to see how it felt because I wanted to make sure it didn't feel like super foreign. Like I figured it was going to be a little rougher than what it was, and then after the slip, I'm kind of in the same position. I forgot we were pulling on a different table. I knew like okay, I can feel that border. I know where to be at. Setting up might have been a little different because I like to set up a little higher. The problem is like when you're on a traditional 7x7 pad, I can kind of lay on my tricep and my elbow can be like right at the very edge. If you try doing that, like laying on your tricep on that mag table, you're going to be bridging that border. So it's like, nope, bring it back a little bit, bring it back a little bit. um no, I don't think it was a crazy big change though. Personally, I don't think it was. It may seem like it was. Now, granted, with that being said, I guess I do have to say I had Drew Authorson with Berserker Tables, Berserker Arm Wrestling make the same dimension pads and the same dimension pin pads, and I trained and I pulled like exclusively on that for the last 6 weeks leading up to it. So I guess I was used to the pad size, because I
How
feel like
does
you
that
have
work
to.
too for those? Was that running fouls on that, or is it just that they give you like
It's a
when
running warning.
towards the red line that they say, hey, you're getting close or something? Like how does that work?
I think if your elbow goes on the red line, they like tell you got to put it back on. They give you a warning or something, and then if you don't put it back on, I think you get a foul. I don't remember if it's a stop foul or if it's
Yes, I think the way that JJ explained it to me was if you get close to that line and you're on that line, they're going to tell you to back off, and you don't have very long like to get off of that line. Otherwise, it'll be a stop foul. And if you gain an advantage or pin somebody from that, then that's restart. I believe
okay. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
with a foul, restart with a foul. I believe.
I got another question here from Kasumi on the chat. He said, is there a website or something where we can see the rankings?
There's
Off of In the Hook or Arm Fighter?
Yep.
In the Hook is a little. I think Arm Fighter is a little more up to date. I think In the Hook is outdated. I mean, I know In the Hook is outdated. Um, they're making adjustments on there still, but you got to think to track the top 20 in North America at every single weight class without having a committee and without having because Corey Miller is on the he runs AERS, which is great, but he's also on the Arm Fighter Committee along with I think like Sean Hancock, Alexander Voltes, so
I
and
like
they're
the
always
rank
watching.
better. I think they're
Yeah,
more.
they're always watching. Brandon's ranked at I think number 3 at 210, left-handed on Arm Fighter.
Gotcha.
Am I? Holy
Say
shit.
if you're,
Yeah, you are.
assume you go to armfighter.com and then there's a tab like a couple down that says rankings. You just click on that and then it'll bring up all the rankings that they have on there. Now, I do believe it's not in the 54, 76, 98
No, it's in kilograms, like IFA. So like your 190s, your 210s, your
Yeah.
230s, but I think it's like 209, 231,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same. I
Gotcha.
call it 230, 210. But yeah, I think that is how they're ranked. Personally, I love those weight classes sometimes because if it's a 230 class, I don't have to cut. If I want to cut to 210, I can, which I'm probably not going to because I don't like cutting that much weight. But if it's a more local event that I don't have to spend as much money on with those weight classes, I'm all for it. But if it's traveling or if there's any if I'm taking it very very serious, like I'm cutting weight, I'm doing everything I need to do to get
Now,
right with that.
I have one other question. Cody, you came into this match with a cut, correct?
Yeah.
And how much weight did you cut?
So I went from like 226 or 227 down to 220 for the match for weigh-ins.
And when was weigh-in?
Friday at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. Friday. And Brandon, what was your weight at weigh-in?
I weighed in with my clothes and shoes on, and I was 207 and a half.
Okay. I'd like to see this rematch where you guys both weigh
176. Book
in
it.
in the skivvies at 205.
Oh no, not happening.
I like
that. There's absolutely no way that is happening. I'll go to 305 before I go to 205.
It comes down to this. It comes down to this. You had a 20-pound weight advantage, right? I know we're arm wrestling with our arms, but whenever you're shoulder committed and everything
13 pounds from 207 to 220.
Yeah.
So 13-pound weight advantage. But it's the same way, it's the same way as if you're in a tournament, if you're pulling a 220 class, anything from 199 to 220.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about you two.
Right.
I'm talking about you two.
I think that would have been a lot different story if I would have came in there at 242 pounds or something.
I think it might have been a different story if
then it's excessive.
207.
Oh, well, that's just not going to happen. I'm not going to come in at 207. I haven't been 207 in like 3 years.
I could come in at 220 if I wanted to, but I don't really want to right now. I've been losing weight the past few months.
That's what you said. You said you were feeling pretty good at 207. And you said it yourself that it wasn't an excuse. You were feeling good. You're feeling, how you were feeling. And I think some people did take that the wrong way when you said that. Some people were thinking to themselves like, oh, he's using it as an excuse. And it's like, no, he put that in there that he wasn't.
No, I was basically what I was saying is I'm happy with how well I did for being 207 pounds. Like for me, that's I think I did great. I'm happy with my performance. I was a lighter guy and it was a friggin' all out war. So to me, that's like, it's showing, you tell people what you're happy about with the match. And that's one of those things.
Yep. But I think it was a great match. You guys did wonderful. You guys showed everybody out there that, the left hand can be entertaining and enjoyable.
Left hand is the best hand.
Well, I don't know.
My right sucks, so I'm gonna live by that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to disagree with on that one. But anyway, so that's pretty much going to do it for this podcast. Cody, as always, thank you so much for being my co-host and supporter. Brandon, thanks for jumping in, bud. We appreciate you being here on the show, Ben.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, man.
Once again, thank you, Grip Arm Sport, for being a supporter of arm wrestling and a supporter of the Winning Side Arm Wrestling podcast. If you guys do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I urge you to get that relationship soon and fast, because Jesus loves you and I love you. Everybody, you guys have a great night, and I hope your evening is wonderful.
Absolutely. We'll see y'all later.
You
Y'all
guys have a good night.
Yeah, have a good night, guys. Bye.
Thank you. You too.